Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and as most of you already know, Private Division sent me a review copy last Friday. I have been playing the living heck out of the Outer Worlds. I already have it done. My review is up on the channel. That is linked in the description down below. Do check it out if you have missed it. Anyway, because I have this game complete, I thought I'd be in a good spot to create a beginner's guide, a starter's guide for everyone who's going to be hopping into the Outer Worlds. I felt this video would help you get assimilated with the Outer Worlds a little easier. And the reason I think this is important is because the game hits you with a lot of tutorials, a lot of reading early on, and this can stagnate some players a bit because there's so much to remember right away. I thought this guide would sort of streamline some aspects of the experience, and this is also built off some of the discoveries I made. So with all of that mentioned, I hope you guys enjoy. It will be spoiler free, so do not worry about that whatsoever. I understand how excited people are for this game, and now let's get into it, beginning with scrapping weapons and armor. So for those who aren't aware, the Outer Worlds has a workbench in this game. And what you can do with this workbench is modify weapons and armor. You can tinker with them, which means you can increase some of their stats. You can also repair them. But most importantly is that you can break them down. And when you break them down, you get armor and weapon parts. Now, if your skills are high enough, you're actually able to do this scrapping away from the workbench. If that is the case, then this is probably one of the most helpful looting tips that you can absolutely get in this game, because as you kill enemies in the Outer Worlds, they'll drop assault rifles that you already have, armor that you already have, maybe lower level armor that you won't need. What are you going to do? Pick all this up and then haul it back to the workbench? It does make the looting a little more cumbersome, but hopefully if you have your engineering skill up just a little bit, you'll actually be able to just hold an analog stick press, and because of that, you can scrap this stuff right on the fly in the container. Instead of, for example, even if you have the engineering skill, opening up your menu and scrapping everything all at once, you can just do it while you're looting and sort of keep the gameplay flow going. This is easily one of the most helpful tips you can get because it just lets the game roll on. It's a really smart mechanic, but not one that the game tells you about. Now, how about questing? Questing is one of the best parts of the Outer Worlds, and you obviously want to find those quests as soon as possible, and there are many, I mean many, to discover. Now, what's the easiest way to find them? I know this may seem a little silly to talk about, but as you enter these towns, at least early on, you might feel a little overwhelmed. You'll see people named Corporate Commander, Edgewater Worker, and you'll be like, okay, who's going to give me a quest here? How exactly does this all work? Well, just keep an eye out for named characters. The way I narrowed it down was into a general system. If someone has a faction name and then an occupation, like I said, Edgewater Worker, that person is just another NPC. You can go up and press the talk button. They'll say a little blurb, but they're not going to bring you to the conversation screen that a named character would, which means those named characters will offer you some type of dialogue, maybe a quest, maybe they're a vendor, and that's exactly what you want to look for in the Outer Worlds. So if you're looking to, I guess, quote, gamify, end quote, the experience a bit, this will help you a lot in finding quests. And I know it may seem silly, but a lot of these towns are packed with NPCs walking around doing tons of stuff. And as I said, it can get a little overwhelming. So if you're looking for an easy way to narrow down where these quests are, just look for characters with actual names, and they will be the ones that can interact with you, talk with you, share rumors, share quests, trade with you, and so on. Speaking of talking, one of the best parts of the Outer Worlds is these quests and how you can handle them. You can do them through stealth, non-lethally. You can kill everybody. You can do what you want in this game. It's actually phenomenal. I cannot believe we have a game like this nowadays. It's the Fallout game we always wanted. Is like I said in my review, man, it is crazy. So anyway, what I wanted to emphasize here is if you put a little extra effort into the Outer Worlds, you can usually yield a result that you're looking for. What I tried to do in almost any situation I could was talk my way out of problems, and the Outer Worlds is built to accommodate how you play the game. So just know, if you try hard enough and you're building your character right and you're making the proper choices along the way to win some favor with people, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can talk your way out of situations. Not everything has to result in combat. This is something that I think we've become accustomed to in video games where everything has to end in a firefight. This game very much lets you talk your way out of problems. So just keep that in mind for those who are maybe playing on a higher difficulty. Maybe they're looking to scrounge some resources. They don't want to use too much in a battle because the game can get a smidge difficult later on. Not too hard, but once again, I played on normal, so it may differ on what difficulty you're on. Maybe you're playing on supernova. Talking yourself out of issues is probably a lot more important there, right? So just keep this type of stuff in mind, that you don't always have to go in guns blazing. And this goes for moments outside of conversation. You really can take a non-lethal route most times in the Outer Worlds. It's not just a, quote, good guy playthrough. You can really look for additional options in the gameplay if you talk to the right people. Sometimes they're not marked by quests, so make sure to always explore, explore, explore. Now, when you're starting off the game, you're going to be in the Edgewater colony owned by Spacer's Choice. Now, Spacer's Choice is known to have a lot of products that are, we'll say, finicky. So just keep in mind that you should have additional weapons and armor on hand in the early game, because it's not going to be as bad as Breath of the Wild, but your stuff is going to be breaking. So like I said, make sure you're looting, make sure you have maybe 2 of each weapon just so that you can continuously swap them out. Like I said, if you combine this with the scrapping at the beginning of the video and extra looting, you should be okay with repairing what you already have. I never really got to a point where my weapon was fully about to break, but I was immediately aware of it. So I felt I should bring this up right away so that you guys know that you have to keep track of weapon durability, and that scrapping alongside having additional Spacer's Choice weapons early on will help you out. But it's not only going to help you out, these items can also be used by your companions. You can decorate your companions not only with their perk choices, but also additional weapons and armor that may be laying about in your inventory. And this is something that I occasionally forgot about as the game went on. And you're going to want to do this because your companions can be big damage soakers for you, especially when you start getting overwhelmed by enemies, and you want them to be able to stay up in combat. In order to do that, you have to give them the proper weapons and armor. So make sure you're picking up additional stuff, not only for you, but for your companions. Maybe you'll find a good helmet and think, oh, what I have is better, but does your companion have the better armor? Think about that while looting. Keep them in mind always. They are fantastic companions in this game, and you want to keep them alive. Also, one thing that you should pay attention to is your skill tier. So one of the beautiful parts of the Outer Worlds is as you level up, you'll always get 10 skill points. And when you put a point into a skill, as long as it's below 50, it will level up everything in that skill tree. Once you hit 50 though, you have to invest in individual skills. Now, every 20 points in a skill will unlock what I call a tier, a bonus, if you will. And these are very important to keep track of, ladies and gentlemen, because these can affect the gameplay. Yes, even dialogue choices can really affect your shooting and looting experience. Because, for example, if you have a high Intimidate skill, you will activate a Terrify effect on enemies in combat for 7 seconds, which can be so helpful in the heat of the moment. It'll freeze enemies up, have them run for cover, have them grab their heads in shock and awe. It's really actually awesome that the game has this. And this was only there because I noted in the skill tier, okay, I want to get to, say, 40 Intimidate so that I will have this accessible. There's just so many layers to the skills that even 25 hours in, I was just learning, like, wait, okay, if I increase my science skill, my plasma damage goes up a lot. And that means that this 3-burst anti-manta ray that I looted, a unique weapon, actually will do a ton more damage. Okay, I'm gonna keep putting into that because I really like this weapon, and then I'll tinker with it and level it up even more. So there's different ways to build your character if you pay close enough attention. Stuff like the medical skill not only impacts moments in conversation where you're talking to doctors, and not only the type of medical items you're able to use and the amounts you're able to equip, but just the overall healing and effects of your medical items. There's just so many layers, so be sure to take your time and read about these skills. Now, I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago that there are unique weapons in this game, and yes, this is something you have to be able to identify because these offer a lot more buffs and perks compared to your standard weapons, and you can get a bunch right off the bat in Edgewater. I'll actually have a video tomorrow talking about the best beginner weapon for the Outer Worlds. Once again, it's going to be spoiler free. It's not going to ruin anything for the game, but the way you identify these unique weapons and armor is through the thumbnail picture for that weapon. So if it's a standard weapon, it's just going to have an image of that weapon in its little square. However, if it's a unique weapon, which means it has unique characteristics compared to other weapons, it will have a golden swirling background there. So keep that in mind. Often these are quest given rewards. These are ones that you can loot in the open hub areas. And then lastly, there's science weapons, which are clear as day. There's a quest behind them, but there's also a little blue atom in the background. So these allow you to identify which weapon is which. It helps when you're selling, when you're breaking stuff down. I personally never sold or got rid of a single unique because you guys know me. I love my rare weapons and armor, especially in these types of games. I go just crazy for them. Now, I don't want to sell the Outer Worlds combat as this overly complex gameplay system. It's one of my main critiques of the game. But with that being said, there are enemy weaknesses you can target. Now, the game makes it very apparent that you can use tactical time dilation to target said weaknesses. But also, the game doesn't make it as apparent that ammo types can target certain weaknesses. So plasma or shock may be useful against certain enemy types. If you're fighting a marauder ringleader, which is one of the higher tier marauder enemies you can fight, heavy ammo is going to be your best friend versus light ammo, which is better on some of the standard grunts. Their armor changes, it scales, so you want to use different types of ammunition for different situations. Just pay attention to the enemy name and you'll learn very quickly who's weak to what. So ladies and gentlemen, those are just some beginner tips for you for the Outer Worlds when it comes to questing, exploration, crafting, building your character, breaking things down. I wanted to try to avoid obvious stuff in this video and give legitimate help. So I do hope I provided some of that. Let me know what you are all thinking in the comments down below. I hope you are enjoying the Outer Worlds content. There is plenty more to come. So I'll talk with all of you soon. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.